the Addict to Athlete podcast. Everybody out there, Coach Blue Robinson here. I want to thank you all so much for downloading, sharing, and subscribing to the podcast. We greatly appreciate you doing so. As always, we'd love to have you jump on the website, addicttoathlete.org. If you jump on there, you'll find all of our backlog podcast information about the team and some resources to help you kickstart your own recovery. It's always better when you got a team behind you. Pay particular attention to our calendar. Right now, we are in the phase of fundraising for our Project ELF. This is a program that Addict to Athlete assists people who have fallen on some hard times that might need some help with Christmas. And so we have active fundraising open right now if you want to check that out. And if you're able, we'd love to have you donate. So check out that on the website, as well as our own recovery coach program. If you want to become a certified recovery coach for Team Addict to Athlete, it can all be found underneath the resources tab. Athlete's got a great guest in studio today. I'm excited to talk to him. I've been following his socials for quite a while. He's a very inspirational man, and he's got some neat things on the horizon. And I really think that he carries the message of recovery through every step that he takes. Chip, thank you so much for being part of the Addict to Athlete podcast, brother. Why don't you introduce yourself to the team and brace yourself for a lot of new teammates, because this team really likes to rally around guys like you. So jump in here. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how all this stuff got started, and then we'll kind of dive in on where you're going.
Okay. Hey, well, I appreciate you having me on, Blue. It's always an honor to reach out to the recovery community, and I started. I was introduced to you by a friend, and I was able to start following you guys on social media, and I love what you guys are doing. So I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
So I guess to start, we could start with how I got into running.
Yeah.
So it actually started. I made the high school soccer team my sophomore year, and I had played when I was younger, but I hadn't played for quite a few years. So I wanted to get into sports when I was in high school, and soccer just seemed like the best fit. I had tried basketball in junior high, but just wasn't I made the team, but it just wasn't the best fit for me. But so I went out for soccer when I got into high school, and made the team, and they would put me in the game, and I don't even think it was 10 minutes. I mean, it might've been, it felt like an hour, but it was probably more like 4 minutes I was in, and I would be signaling to the coach, take me out. I can't, I can't breathe. I was, it was a struggle. So the summer going into my junior year, my dad comes home, and I'll preface this by saying that my dad was not an athlete, and he was not the most healthy individual. But he comes to me, and he says, "Hey," I said, "I just want to let you know that I talked to Coach Jukes at school at the booster meeting, and I signed you up for cross country." And I was like, "What? You did what?" Yeah, I was, I can't believe you did this. I don't want to run. Like, I don't. That's not my thing. I don't want to do that. I was like, why didn't you even ask me about it? I was I was agitated. I was aggravated. I couldn't believe I had to do this. And he goes, well, look, I saw you struggling during soccer, and I talked to Coach about it, and I gave Coach my word, and you're living under my house, so you're gonna go.
Gosh.
I went kicking and screaming. I gave very minimal effort during all of our training sessions. Didn't put an ounce of care into any of the meets. I just went out there just to do it, just because my dad made a promise and I was there. Well, soccer came back around my junior year, and I got moved into a starting role. I think one of the starters got kicked off the team for some reason or another. I don't remember. I don't remember all this so long ago. But I moved up into a starting position, and I could run the whole game. Nice. And I could go a full 90 minutes, and it immediately clicked to me that, okay, wow, there was something to all that training I just did with cross country. So, so I went into my senior year at cross country, and I took it a little more serious and got to that kind of, it's a you versus you, and started pushing myself, and started, had some guys on the team that, I wanted to try to become faster than, so started training a little bit harder. Still didn't go 100% all in, but was definitely more into it. And it was between me and another guy who were going to go to state that year, and coach was it was whoever did the best at like the next couple meets. So worked really hard, and I ended up making it to state as an alternate, and that's kind of how that was when the seed was planted for running.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, it didn't really last much longer than high school. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now if it did.
Yeah.
In the course of all that, that's when I started kind of dabbling into alcohol, dabbling into drugs.
Yeah.
I started alcohol wasn't ever a big thing for me. It was more, I got into ecstasy to start off with, and I was sneaking into clubs and with a fake ID that we had. So it was the worst fake ID. I don't even know how I got in there, but
brilliant.
Do a bunch of ecstasy, and then I got into the rave scene, and things, just started getting a little bit harder from there. And I had always, I started doing a lot of, I started progressing into doing like a lot of cocaine and stuff, and then that was more just like nightlife and just if I was drinking, then I would want to go a little bit harder after the club or something, and so it just kind of it progressed. And I started hearing about meth, but at first meth actually scared me, and I always swore I would never touch it. I was never going to do it, and I went years without doing it. I had friends that were doing it all the time, and I would never touch it. I just would stay with doing the ecstasy or drinking or doing some cocaine every now and then. But that was the gist of it. And then one day we left the rave we were at, and we were going to an after party, and they had some, and the curiosity got to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, somebody handed me a key bump, and then that was it. I did it, had a fantastic time. I fell in love. It was just an incredible feeling, and I thought, man, this is better than anything I've ever done. And it just, and so it just kind of progressed from there. I actually went years without actually falling like hard into addiction. I was more like functioning, it was more like a weekend warrior type of deal. Kind of just going out, doing it if it was around or if I found it, or every now and then I would seek it out, but never was a full blown addict. And then into my late 20s, I started dealing with some things in my life, and I was in the process of taking over our family business, and so I had money, and I had money and I was in the music industry as well. I was DJing, and I was starting to kind of progress into the business side of things, and I started throwing events, and then I was in this toxic relationship. And that relationship kind of got the best of me.
Right.
And, meth started becoming a little bit more prominent. Now I had the money, I could afford it. Money, I could just, it wasn't tough to get. And so, and the people I was surrounded with, that's what we like to do, I mean, that was it. And so, as the relationship that I had, it totally fell apart, and I fell into like this deep depression, and it's crazy. I actually remember, I can actually, I'll come to this later on, but I think this is why it was, I don't want to say easier for me to quit and kind of go into my recovery, but as I was So I was walking out the door one day to go to my dealer's house, and I stopped at the door and I had a conversation with myself. And the conversation was, if you walk out of this door right now and you go over there, there's no coming back. It was like that. It was like this voice in my head, like it knew. And so I had this, and I had this conversation with myself, and it was, I just remember saying, screw it, in other words, I said it in other words, but screw it. I walked out the door, I went to his house, and then that was it. Like I kind of just accepted the fact that I was going to go down this path, and it was
wow.
And so that's what happened. And for the next like 3+ years, I just pretty much did meth every single day. Well, as much as I could, there was times where I was trying to quit, and then there was times where I just couldn't find it. But within that 3 years, maybe a 3 to 6 month span that I wasn't using, I was just, and things were okay at first. I still at this point, I had taken over the business from my dad. And so now I still had money flowing. I didn't have problems buying. And I was really, though, at this point as well, I was starting to make a little bit more headway in the music industry. Gotcha. So I was starting to get my production rolling a little bit more. I was starting to get some events going, and I had taken over this Sunday night weekly event that I had been a part of for years and years and years, and that just kind of opens the doors. And push came to shove, though, and I actually paid for this really expensive trip for me and some friends to go to Vegas to go to this festival, and went out there, did it high roller style, and I kept getting a phone call from my bank, and I kept ignoring it while I was out there because I'm not dealing with all this, whatever this is. Well, apparently it was them calling me to tell me the IRS was freezing my accounts because I hadn't paid my withholding taxes in the business, and so when I got back in, I was renting a house at the time, and I would pay my landlord through my business account, and he comes knocking on my door with a bounced check, wanting to know what's going on and why this happened, and I'm going, I have no idea. There should be plenty of money in there. I don't understand.
Yeah,
so I called my bank. So I called my bank, and that's what happened. The IRS had pretty much taken everything out of my money, and then had taken all my money out of the bank. And at this point, I had nothing.
Oh man.
It was a harsh wake up call, but what it didn't stop me from using it. Just made me want to use more. I ended up,
as it does.
I ended up moving back in with my parents, and I decided I was going to still try to make things work in the music industry. So started diving head in more and convinced some people to invest in me a little bit, and we started doing events. And then I ended up managing, a few different DJs, and so. It wasn't a lot of income. It was minimal, and I was getting paid for the Sunday night event I did. So all that money, though, was just going to support my habit. That was it. Yeah, that was it. And but I was listening to a podcast with you, and I think is it Tyson Sneed?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I didn't get to listen to the full podcast, but he was talking about when he was in history class, how it would help him to focus. Yeah. So that's what it primarily, I had to learn how to stretch out the drugs I was doing. I had to stretch the meth out because now I didn't have all the income. I couldn't do as much. So what I would do is in order to, I wanted to have an edge. So I would stay up late, and try to work out deals with other promoters and stuff around the country to try to help my artists get deals. And I figured the later I could stay up, the better, the better chances I had, the more opportunity I had. And all these other guys are doing the same thing, so we're all making deals at, 2 a.m., via Facebook Messenger and stuff. And so that's kind of where I was. And it really helped me. That's when it really got bad though too, is when I realized kind of like Tyson did, was it helped me focus so much on, making sure contracts were right, making sure this was right. And so I kept thinking to myself, well, I don't want to stop doing this now.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm on a roll. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm on a roll now. And so, but as all things, with that lifestyle, it's a fast life, and then everything comes crashing down. And when you avoid all your responsibilities, and it's all going to come back. It's going to hit you. It's going to come back full circle eventually. One way, you got to pay the piper at some point. And that's what happened. It started off the girl I was dating at the time, who we ended up getting married later on. She's unfortunately she's now we're divorced now. But I was trying to help her raise her 2 kids, who are my stepkids now, and I'm fortunate enough to still have them in my life. They came into my life when they were about 1 year old. But she ended up leaving. She ended up leaving me, and then I ended up getting pulled over for having an expired license plate, and then I did not have insurance either. So, and it was a state trooper that pulled me over directly across the street from the state trooper's office. So there was no way I was getting out of it.
Yeah.
So they impounded my vehicle. Then in the midst of all that, a guy that I had grew close to, who we were starting to, he was kind of trying to come in as a business partner with me, and we were forming a pretty good relationship. He ends up dying of a heroin overdose. And then I started getting really angry, super paranoid, just about some things. And in the midst of that though, I remember laying down in my bed, I'm in my bed, and I'm laying down with a shotgun on the side of me, with one shell in it, and I'm sitting there thinking, this is all I need. But I didn't have the courage to do it.
Yeah,
I think that was I think at that moment, it was kind of the beginning of a wake up call for me. So that bed was actually it was in a tool shed behind my parents' house. So I kind of came to the realization in the midst of all this rock bottom that I'm starting to hit that, okay, my wife, not my wife, but my girlfriend left me. She took these kids who I adore. They're not in my life anymore. My best friend just died of a heroin overdose, and I don't have a car right now. I need to get it out the impound, and I am living in a tool shed behind my parents' house. Like, it just came to the realization.
Yeah.
I started coming to the realization. So my mom was petrified of me because I would snap on her, blow up on her, and I had all this anger and animosity, which she never deserved any of that. I mean, she's actually my adopted mom. My biological mom passed away when I was 8 years old. And she dealt with mental health issues. She was bipolar, manic depressant.
Gotcha.
Which probably is some hereditary traits that I have dealt with, and that which helped lead me towards my addiction and my addictive personality and all that. And man, but she's been an absolute godsend, through all this. Her patience and her just her strength to be able to endure some of the things that I put her through during that time,
Right.
I would have never did it to my dad, because he would have just probably punched me in the face, but I took advantage of the weak. Because that's because I was weak, and I wanted to try to take advantage of somebody weaker than me.
Right.
And so I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
No, you're just in that. You're in the tool shed. You're having all these epiphanies.
Oh
like,
yeah,
is this where my life is? Yeah.
Right. So I went. That's it. So I went. I went to my mom, and I said, "Hey, look, I know things have been tough, but I would really like it if you could talk to Kristen and see if she'll take me. If she'll take me back, you know." And so my mom did it. She went over there and talked to Kristen, convinced Kristen to have a conversation with me. My mom stayed in the house. We talked. Kristen decided to give me another chance, and then, you know, I went, but I went one more time, and I went and I used again. And when I was using though during this time, I I I was having a bad experience. It was a different kind of paranoia. Like, you know, you have drug induced paranoia, but
Yeah.
this felt more legit. Like it didn't feel so much as it didn't feel like that drug induced. And I didn't like the people I was around, and I was getting a bad vibe from them. And
Mm.
so they all decided they were going to go somewhere. I don't remember exactly where they went, but um, they but when they left, I was by myself, and so I had this conversation with myself again, kind of like when I was walking out the door that day. I had this conversation with myself, and I was like, "What am I doing?" You know, I've had
Yeah.
this opportunity to get my girl back, to get the kids back. Why am I here? Like, you know, I really I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so the conversation kind of went, well, what are you willing to do to to stop? Like, are you,
Mm.
you know, it was, are you willing to give up everything in your life? Are you willing to sacrifice it all? Like, um, it was, you know, the music industry, everything, all the relationships that I built. You know, I had even gotten to this point where there's this production company out here who throws this huge music festival, and I had got into the doors with them, and we had sat down and talked. And we were, you know, thinking about doing this dance music award show and everything. And when I left from that office, I was driving home. I was already driving on a spare tire, and my other tire blew out. It was just, you know, it was just all these
All
little
these
things that were
signs.
happening
Yep.
that were trying to that were gearing me towards my rock bottom, you know, and it was trying to take me away.
Absolutely.
And I'm having this conversation with myself, and so I asked, you know, like I said, I asked myself, am I willing to give up all of this, walk away from everything, everybody, everyone, go back to zero, to having nothing and completely rebuilding life? And it was an unwavering yes, I am willing to sacrifice all that. There was
Wow.
no more doubts. I knew right then and there that I was done, and there was no hesitation in my answer, anything. And at that moment, I got up. I had, well, I don't know how much was left. I had a little baggie left. I took it. I threw it in the toilet, flushed it, and that was it.
That was
I
that.
went, and that was that. I just went. I slept for like 4 days, 5 days.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of dealing with everything, and then I started self recovering from there, and then just that was it. You know, then started the long process of recovery.
Man, well, you bring up something that's kind of interesting, and the same kind of premise happened to me. I never really got professional help or therapy during the addiction years, and part of it was because of the poverty that I was experiencing. Who had money for that stuff, right?
Right.
But people say this, and you've experienced it, so I think you'll understand that you can literally have a change of mind, and you can literally be done with one choice that you make, and that's I'm done. And I've debated with people, no, it's not possible. Yes, it is. It's happened to me. It's happened to you. You can make these decisions. And I think it's very interesting, too, at the time of life where you're standing in that doorway. You have this very profound impression that if you go, you're going deep, and you're like, yeah, throw caution to the wind. Let's go. Same thing again, where it's, you know, if you do this, there's no turning back. What are you willing to do? That's a heavy question, brother. I've asked that with some of the clients I've worked with, as a therapist, that, like, what are you willing to do to get sober? And I'll do anything. I'm like, all right, let's get you back in jail for the 9 months. And when you get out, then we'll start treatment. You'll absolutely be sober. Oh, I don't want to do that. But if it guaranteed you getting clean, why wouldn't you? So I love the fact that you asked yourself that question and you followed through with it. And it sounds kind of silly because it wasn't easy, but as simple as changing your mind and doing something like that. I think that is profound. It's possible. So on this journey now, you're in this little purgatory state where you're not using, you're kind of starting to get your legs back under you. What was that period of time where you're trying to figure out what direction to go? Because, it's easy to slip back into old patterns. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, unless you make a conscious effort to change. That little period in between, what did you do? How did you not slide back into it when things got stressful?
So that's actually a great question, and so it definitely didn't get easier.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, so my first order of business when I cleaned up and was I need to mend a relationship with my dad, because our relationship had fallen apart pretty bad.
I'll bet.
And that was it. I wanted him to, I wanted me, him, and my son to go out. I wanted us just to have a day where we went together and we hung out, and I was going to use this as a time for me and him just to kind of start rebuilding our relationship. So we set it up, and we ended up going to my dad was a big hunter and fisherman, and so we went. And I used to be into it when I was younger, but we decided we were going to go to Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's and just go take my son, let him look at all the wildlife that those places have. And went out, had a fantastic day. We went eat at the restaurant at the Bass Pro Shop, and my son just had a blast looking at all the fish in the aquarium that they have behind the little bar area. Yeah. And it was fun. And when we were leaving Cabela's, my dad, we kind of share this trait. It's kind of funny. A lot of times when I pull into the driveway or I'm going to leave or something, I usually he would do the same thing. We would go into these thoughts, we just kind of go into this little stare, and I think we're just kind of processing where we just went or what we just did, and I just think we're just thinkers.
Yeah.
So, but this time when he was doing it was different. His stare was different, and he was taking a lot longer than normal. So I joked with him. I said, "Hey, man," I said, "You gonna put the truck in reverse, or are we gonna go inside and buy a tent and camp out here?"
Yeah.
And so he goes, "Oh, no. He said, I just was getting my bearings straight." Okay, all right, yeah, no problem. So we drive home. Everything seems fine. So come a couple weeks later, right after Valentine's Day, I go to, and this is 2015. So I sobered up December 3rd, 2014. We got together, and I think it was in that January, and then in February, on February 15th, I was going to meet up with them to have I was going to meet up with my mom and dad, and we were all going out in the boat. We were going to go out in the boat. They were at my aunt's camp down here. And so I show up over there, and my mom is in hysterics. She's going, "Chip, I don't know what's going on with your dad." And my dad was heavily involved with his church. I mean, he was the guy that did all the cooking, but he was very heavily involved. So he had his pastors over. He had a lot of church members that he was involved with. And my mom's like, "Chip, I don't know what's going on with your dad. He is over here. He's been swearing, saying the F word. I don't know what's going on." So I go upstairs, I talk to him, I said, "Hey, Dad," I said, "Man, what's going on?" "Oh, nothing. I got this headache. And we ended up going out in the boat, and he tried taking we had a Carolina skiff. He ends up trying to take this boat into this shallow water, almost burns the engine up. Not sure what he was doing. He starts calling Kristen, my biological mom, who had been passed away since I was 8. starts calling her name, starts calling her Cindy. And so at this point I said, we need to get him. Something's going on.
Something's wrong.
We need to take him to the hospital. Long story short, he ends up having, they had taken him to the hospital. He ends up getting diagnosed with glioblastoma, which is brain cancer.
Oh, man.
It's one of the most deadliest forms. And so he had two tumors. One was a little bit more shallow. One was deeper. And the one that was deeper, there's nothing much they can do. And, the closer those things are to the brain stem, the shorter, I guess, your life expectancy you have.
Dang it! Yeah.
So he was diagnosed on February 15th, and by April 6th, he had passed away.
Oh man!
That year. So it was less than 2 months. And interesting thing about April 6th is April 6th, my biological mom who passed away, that's the day she was born.
Whoa.
So life has a funny way of connecting things for you.
Yes,
but
it does.
in the midst of when he was sick, I started thinking about, there's with brain cancer, I mean, anybody can get it. It doesn't matter how fit you are, it doesn't matter how healthy you are.
Yep.
That can really come on to anybody. Cancer in general, it can just come on to anybody. But my dad had tons of other health problems. Like I said, he wasn't the most healthy individual. He had battled diabetes, gout, all these other issues. Don't hold me to this, but I want to say he might have been starting to have heart issues, and that's kind of when they noticed something with his red blood cells.
Right.
That were kind of indicative that this might be something he's dealing with. None of them knew to the extent though that it was brain cancer, but it was some signs. But in the midst of that, I started just thinking to myself, man, I don't want to end up like that. I don't want to live in hospitals and live on medication and be seeing these doctors all the time. So life kind of comes around full circle. The seed that he planted by forcing me onto that cross country team, I decided to start running again. And I was a smoker at that time. I still was smoking cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
And but started running, and I was running just for health purposes. And then I had a scare with my throat or something that kind of freaked me out a little bit. Went to the doctor. They said it was nothing, but it put me on the path to quitting smoking. And so I ended up quitting smoking. But in the midst of that, I started wondering to myself, okay, I started off doing like 20 minutes, 30-minute runs.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, hey, I'm running I can run 3 miles in 30, 35 minutes. And I was like, well, can I run 4 miles?
I love it.
Okay. So I did 4 miles. The next week, okay, can I do 5? I did 5 miles. And then next thing you know, I was I was training for a marathon. I got involved with a church here, and he was the youth pastor over there, and he ends up he's a runner, and so he convinces me to sign up for the Louisiana Marathon. So I do it, and
love it.
And so all that, that helped me with not ever falling back, into drugs. And by the time the marathon came, I had already hit a point where I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to do this again. Like I just knew, like I was like, I was so confident in myself. I was like, I can think about it. I can go about life about it, and I have no desire to want to do it. And then I just started kind of feeling, I don't know if feeling sorry is the right word or whatnot, but I guess kind of just feeling sorry, or just, wishing that some people who are still in that lifestyle would maybe one day get out of it, and, but, I was still just kind of focused on me and making sure that I was, maintaining, a healthy lifestyle and staying on the right path. And
I love it.
Well, then, I ran the marathon though. And when I ran the marathon, I finished it, and I just, it didn't like, I wasn't like done with it. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Like, this is the greatest thing I ever did. I just finished it, and I was like, okay, well, that's over with. and it caught my attention quick because I was like, man, why am I not this excited about this?
Yeah.
So I decided to just go back to running just recreationally, just kind of running for therapy, just going
Yep.
out and just making sure I stayed healthy. And that's really what it was. And maybe we do a 5K here or something, or, but nothing serious. But then I started to get bored with it. And around the end of 2020, 21, right around the end of COVID, I decided, I was like, I want to reach out to this running club they have here because I wanted to start running with people because I was losing my interest in running.
Yeah.
I didn't want to stop, but I figured, well, if I get around people, maybe being surrounded by a community will entice me to
100%
to do some more things. So I signed up. I became a member of this group, Gator Racing, and
Nice.
and so and all at the same time. As soon as that happened, my cousin, who lived in Idaho at the time, he calls me up and he says, "Hey," he says, "Look, I know you've been running for a while," and he said, "Look, they got this ultra marathon up here that I want you to come and do." He said, "It's called Beaverhead, and it's in Beaverhead. It's in the Beaverhead Mountains." He said, "It's a 55K," and he said, "Man," he said, "I think you would love it." And I said, "Dude, how am I supposed to train for the mountains?" I said, "I live in flat South Louisiana.
Where I live? It's a pancake here, buddy." Yeah.
Right. I was like, I'm below sea level, man. I said, if anything, I'm going downhill, dude.
I love it, man.
He said, look, get you one of those altitude masks, man, that'll help you. I said, I don't want to wear an altitude mask. I said, I've been wearing a mask every day because of COVID. I said,
I'm done with that.
I don't want to wear it while I'm running. And he said, I'm telling you, go run some levees out there. He's like, find a bridge or something. He's like, you're going to be fine.
Find a bridge. Yeah, I love it.
So, and which we do. We have a bridge here that's, but it's still not the same as running trails and mountains.
Oh, yeah.
So we started talking. I knew before we hung the phone up that I was going to do it. Yeah. And I went and talk to Kristen and I said, hey, look, Zach just called. This is what he wants me to do. And I said, I really want to do it. She's like, yeah, I think you should, go out there and it'll be great. Brilliant. So signed up for it, trained for it, went out there and, we did a couple of test runs beforehand where we ran a few trails. He took me down a trail where he had got married and took me to the spot where he got married and everything. And I've always been, I may not do a lot of hunting and fishing like I used to with my dad when I was younger, but being outdoors has always been a place where I connect. So I end up, we end up on race day, and my cousin thought I was dealing with like these nerves, and I said, look, man, I know it looks like I'm nervous. I said, I'm just really, really excited. And I was like,
something new.
Yeah, I was like, I said, this is just a lot of excitement. And I said, I know it's coming off as nervy energy. I said, yeah, I am a bit nervous. I said, but I'm more excited than anything. And when we started, look, we had to run up this massive hill, man. I don't even know how much feet of elevation it was. That's how it starts. You just go, like, you have to pretty much walk it. And then you get up and you get on the trail. And I got 2 miles into that race. And I knew I want to do ultra marathons. I want to do trail running.
That was
it. Like I knew
different beast.
Yeah, exactly. And then it helped keep me in running because, like I said, I mean, I was debating whether or not I was even going to continue to run, and that was part of the reason I went out there to do the ultra. Was I said, well, let me try this out. Let me see what this is about. This is a whole new style of running that I've never done before. Let me see. So I fell in love with it. Man. I came back home. Next thing you know, I didn't even realize it, but we have a community of ultra runners here.
Oh yeah,
in my town, and so one of my crew for the FKT, he had run dozens and dozens of these of ultra marathons, and me and him linked up, and we started talking a lot, and I started doing some 50Ks. I think I did DNF 140 miler, but I ended up coming back the next year, and then I won that 40 miler. That was the first race. That was the first race I ever won.
Nice.
Then I did a 100 miler after that, or I think I did. No, I'm sorry. I did a 60 miler after that. and I ran that with some injury and didn't really do that well. And then ended up training some more. Ended up running a 100 miler, and that 100 miler didn't go as I wanted it to. And but my training wasn't the best, and I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I had went all in. And after that race, I remember thinking to myself, what, how good could you do if you went 100% all in? Like if you were like all into running, like if you gave everything, strength train, everything. So that's what I did. I just dove headfirst in. I mean, I started strength training. I started running like, pretty much every day. I didn't really, recovery days became more like just like mobility days and stuff.
Yeah.
I just really dove all in. Well, I ended up getting shipped to Tennessee for some work, and I had signed up for another 100 miler. Well, I ended up winning this 40-mile race out in Tennessee, and my confidence started growing. And then I ended up winning, not winning, but I ended up taking 5th in this trail half marathon out there. And I thought, how me from Louisiana, not having much trail experience, and I'm out here and I'm placing like 1st in my age group, 5th overall.
Yeah.
And I'm placing 1st on this very, very, this difficult ultra I just did, this 40-mile race, which had tons of elevation. I even got lost, still came back around.
Oh my gosh.
And it was, yeah, so it was incredible. So my confidence started going up. Then Tunnel Hill came about, the 100-miler I was training for, the second one. And I ended up running that race, which was it's flat in Vienna, Illinois. And I ended up running that course in 16 hours and 16 minutes, and setting I ended up with the 89th top performance in the 100-mile distance in North America.
Good grief.
For the year.
Nice.
And so now my confidence is really high. Right before Tunnel Hill though, I had the idea for the FKT. My 10-year anniversary of being sober from meth was coming up, or just being from meth and all the other drugs was coming up. And I thought, man, what could I do? And the idea of Highway 1 had popped in my head years prior, and it came up, and I thought, yeah, that would be wonderful. Like I was like, man, I could do a lot with that. I said, yeah, man, I think I can make an impact if I run this. I said, I think it would catch people's attention.
Oh, for sure.
So I told myself, well, the only way I'm going to do this is if Wally and Nikki, Nikki is Wally's wife, and she's an ultra marathon runner as well.
I love it.
And I thought that's the only way that I'll only do it if they're on board. So I call them up and I said, hey, look, I've got this crazy idea for next year that I want to do. Can I come over and talk? They're like, yeah, come over. So I sit down with them, I tell them, and they're like, when are we doing this? And that's when
they were all in.
They were all in. And so that was it from there. So starting January, I've slowly been progressing. I, kind of built out some blocks, and here we are now, 41 days away from takeoff, So
and explain to the listeners what it is, because this is an incredible feat you're about ready to take off. What is it?
So what I'm going to be doing is LA Highway 1 is the longest highway in the state of Louisiana. Yeah, and it stretches 431.88 miles. So on November 27th, I am going to begin my trek across the highway in order to raise awareness for those suffering and recovering from addiction and mental illness. Yep.
I love it. I looked that up. I'm like, the longest highway, and I mean, that's crazy in and of itself. But I think the message is powerful, and the experiences that you have. I mean, and I think people in recovery make amazing ultra runners because we have a very unique way of being able to deal with the suck and cope with the pain. It's like, we know what real pain feels like, right? Real pain was having that near-death experience with the shotgun and the tool shed, and then that stuff hurts. So when you're on mile 38, climbing up a hill and your legs are burning and it hurts, it doesn't hurt as bad as that. So I think, we have this unique way of being able to channel the pain and understand that it's temporary. Also, I think it's kind of a neat thing, brother, that you have this inner dialogue going on, that you've learned to truly listen to it, to question it a little bit. Like, from that doorway where you just, ignored it and took off, to now where you're like, you're thinking to yourself, what can I do to impact? What can I do to kind of represent? Like, your inner dialogue is shifted too. And I think that happens out on the trail. I mean, because you've got to, after a while, your headphones suck. You don't want to listen to music. You're podcasted out. You're just like, screw this. And then you got to be with your head. And I think that that's kind of a neat place to be when you've gone through what we've gone through. So I'm curious, and it sucks that time goes by so fast. As you're doing this, as you're running through Louisiana, I'm curious, like, you're doing this for mental health and addiction awareness and whatnot. Here on Team Addict Athlete, we like to call those guys proxy runners. I know you're going to be carrying in your heart proxy names, people that have lost their battle to addiction, your friend who passed away of heroin. My thought here is, are you ready for the emotional toll that it's going to take? Because you physically can do this, but when you're doing it with purpose, it brings a whole new light. You're going to meet people that have had friends and family that passed away. You're going to experience some of this kind of stuff, and all eyes will be on you. How do you cope now with that emotional stuff? I mean, where do you channel that into the energy to kind of keep moving forward, or what? How do you cope with it?
Yeah, like I said, last year when I ran Tunnel Hill, like, I went all in, and probably went like a little, like, too hard, like a little too much Goggins style, and this year, what I'm doing is I'm trying to keep it helps to keep me healthy.
Yes.
And it helps to make sure that I make it to the start line, and that I can make sure that I can finish this. So it all plays a part in that, and making sure I'm doing things right. As far as, I've had people reach out to me who are going to come and run with me. I don't even know if some of them even run, and I know a lot of them have. I know there's a group when I get around the Alexandria area who they do. I think they're a group of runners, and they have like a recovery run. So it's a group of recovering addicts.
Beautiful.
And they reached out and they said, and the lady who reached out to me, she goes, look, we're going to come and join you, but we don't want to slow you down. And I'm going, no, like,
I love it.
Don't even worry. I'm like, don't even worry about that. Like, I'm doing this for you. Like, there's no way that you guys would come and join up with me, and I'd say, oh no, you guys are too slow. I made a goal of 7 to 10 days to finish this in, and there's no way. Like, no, I'm gonna slow down, and we're gonna talk, and and we can process things that we've all gone through together, and we can share our stories. And
beautiful. That's what it's about.
I really think that, just even talking about that, and just thinking about some of the other people that have reached out to me and said that, hey, they may come share just a mile or so with me, or they may just come, ride a bike, or they may even just come and spectate and just see me run by, or just whatever it is. It really, the emotional part of it, it really fuels me too.
Absolutely.
Dealing with that, it's what pushes me, and I think that it's what is going to be that spark that's there when all other cylinders aren't firing. When you get to when we get to that point where we're in that pain cave, and we're in that, and I'm in that really dark place where I'm questioning, why am I doing this? What am I doing? Yep. Knowing that the people who are being impacted back home and around the state, that this is potentially an event or a moment that can cause them to be a ripple in somebody else's life. Like, it can inspire them to do extraordinary, to go out and do extraordinary things, and to become an even greater version of what they even think they are right now, And so to continue to push through, and to finish, and to show them that, we're we're capable of so much more than what sorry, to show them we're capable of so much more than what we believe we are. I think that is how
Beautiful.
I can I'll just really be able to handle that, all the emotions that are gonna come with behind this run and with what we're doing. Yeah.
Brother, I love it. I love it. How do people follow you? What's your socials? Because like I said, you're going to get a lot of new eyes and ears on you. And out here in Utah, we want to support you, any way we can. What's the best way to follow you during this and beyond?
So there's two ways to follow me. You can follow me on Instagram or on Facebook. You can follow me on you can go to Facebook and just search Chip Outin, Autin, and you'll see me. You go to my page, you'll see all the running stuff, and then
definitely recognize
and on Instagram, I go as you can follow me at the Chip Arous, Arous, and I've also I'd like to mention that I recently just teamed up with a local organization here called SARA, which is an acronym for Seeking Action, Raising Awareness and Hope. And it was started because the lady who started it, her daughter died of fentanyl poisoning, or it was a fentanyl overdose. So she started this nonprofit back in 2018, and I met up with her, and we I thought her mission and vision were spot on, and I thought that she was gonna do right with the funds that we raise and everything. And so I decided to team up with them and start fundraising for them. So if anybody wants to look them up, they can look up SARA, Seeking Action, Raising Awareness and Health. And also, if they want to learn more about it, possibly even donate, they can go to seekingaction.org.
Beautiful. And I'll make sure that all that's in the show notes. Yeah, I'll make sure it's all in the show notes. And what a great organization it sounds like. I'd love to support you in that. And, brother, for being a guest here on the podcast, we'll send you some buffs and some arm warmers and a shirt so that you can change out of them sweaty clothes and rest comfortably. But, yeah, I look forward to seeing your progress, and we'll be here cheering for you. We'll make sure that all that's in there. Athletes, you've heard Chip's story. I mean, it's one of maybe common mindsets, but like extraordinary change. And it's about the choices that you make and listening to that inner voice. Chip, I think that's kind of rad, man. That you've learned to trust that instead of fight against it. And man, just Godspeed to you, brother, because you're doing great stuff out there, and we'll have to have you on again after so that we can talk a little bit about what you learned and what you felt and experienced, because we're just barely scratching the surface with you, brother. So don't get too far away. We're going to have our eye on you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Blue. I appreciate you having me on.
For sure. Listeners, you've been well fed. Please share this podcast with anyone that might be struggling. Maybe someone needs a little inspiration, or maybe someone that doesn't think that they are, at the heart of hearts, a runner, because we all thought that at first until we started doing it. So jump in there with both feet. Jump in, find your group, find your team, surround yourself with your tribe. Jump on addicttoathlete.org for more information. Until next time, listeners, do your best to turn your mess